What if the person you trust most is the one who destroys everything you love? Imagine waking up to threatening letters, only to realize the danger was inside your home all along. This is the chilling story of Chris Coleman, devoted father, trusted bodyguard, and the man behind one of the most shocking family tragedies. Buckle up, because this case will leave you questioning everything you know about trust, faith, and deception. Welcome to Horror Sagas. On an unassuming morning, May 5th, 2009, a husband and father stepped out of his home for a routine gym session. When he returned, the world he knew had shattered. His wife and children were no more. Imagine leaving your home today, knowing your loved ones were safe, only to come back to a nightmare. This chilling tale belongs to Chris Coleman. A veteran, devoted Christian, and doting father, Chris seemed to have it all. A peaceful life with his wife, Sherry, and their 2 young sons. However, beneath the surface of this idyllic family life lay a storm brewing, one that began with anonymous letters delivered to their mailbox. On that fateful May day, Chris bid his wife farewell, unaware it would be the last time. Hours later, when his calls to Sherry went unanswered, worry took over. Given the anonymous letters they had been receiving, Chris feared the worst and contacted the police. What they uncovered at the Coleman residence was beyond comprehension. The walls of the home were defaced with sinister red spray paint, and inside, the motionless bodies of Sherry and her 2 boys, ages 11 and 9. This story takes us to Columbia, Illinois, a quiet suburb known for its safety. With a reputation for low crime rates, 1 radical crime per 1,000 residents, Columbia seemed the perfect place for the Coleman family. Chris worked security for Joyce Meyer, a renowned televangelist, while Sherry cared for their children. Their lives revolved around routine and family, supported by a network of friends and Chris's parents, who lived nearby. Yet, their normalcy was shattered when anonymous messages began arriving in late 2008. The first email, sent from an address ominously named destroychris@gmail.com, was chilling. Filled with obscenities, it read, "Chris's family, they are dead." The sender seemed intimately familiar with Chris's schedule and warned that his association with Joyce Meyer had placed his family in danger. Subsequent letters escalated the tension. One even left directly in their mailbox, demanding Chris deny your God publicly or else. Each note dripped with malice, further rattling the family. Despite involving the police, these anonymous messages remained a mystery, with no clues to the sender's identity. Chris's neighbor, Detective Sergeant Justin Barlow, a Columbia police officer, took it upon himself to install a security camera near the Coleman mailbox. This proactive measure, however, could not prevent the unthinkable. The threats culminated in an unimaginable tragedy that turned the Coleman household into a crime scene. The events of May 5th began like any other. Chris left for his gym routine in South St. Louis County. Around 6:45 a.m., concerned by Sherry's silence, he called Detective Barlow, who immediately alerted authorities. Upon arriving at the Coleman residence, officers found an open window at the back of the house. Stepping inside, they were hit by the pungent smell of spray paint. Disturbing phrases like, "You have paid," and "I am always watching," covered the walls in stark red paint. The true horror awaited upstairs. Sherry was found face down on her bed, while Garrett and Gavin lay in their rooms, all victims of choking. The scene revealed an unsettling timeline. Sherry was likely the first victim, as her hair was found on Gavin's body, indicating her desperate struggle to protect her children. Chris arrived home to the devastating news, breaking down in tears outside the house. Authorities announced the case to the public later that day, confirming the passing away of 31-year-old Sherry Coleman and her 2 children. Questions loomed large. Was this crime tied to Chris's high-profile work? Could it have been the work of an unhinged individual discussed by the televangelist's ministry? Or did the answers lie deeper within the Coleman family itself? To uncover the truth, we must delve into the life of this seemingly perfect family and the dark forces that tore them apart. Chris Coleman entered the world on March 20th, 1977, making him 32 years old when tragedy struck his family. Raised in Monroe County, Illinois, by evangelical pastors, Chris grew up surrounded by faith, a background that later influenced his career working for Joyce Meyer, a prominent televangelist. Before stepping into private security, Chris embarked on a very different path, joining the Marine Corps after graduating high school. It was during his time in the military that he met Sherry Weiss in 1997 at a canine training seminar held at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. Chris was 20, Sherry was 19, and the two quickly fell in love. Sherry, born in July 1977, shared similar Midwestern roots, hailing from Berwyn, Illinois. Like Chris, she served her country, enlisting in the U.S. Air Force. Their whirlwind romance led to marriage within months, followed soon after by the birth of their first son, Garrett. 2 years later, they welcomed Gavin, completing their growing family. Desiring a stable life for their children, Sherry left the military to become a homemaker, while Chris transitioned into private security, eventually securing a lucrative position as a bodyguard for Joyce Meyer. His $100,000 salary provided the family with a comfortable lifestyle, but his job often took him away from home, as he traveled frequently with Meyer to events across the globe. Joyce Meyer's ministry, known for its high-profile operations and international reach, became a major part of Chris's life. Meyer herself had known Chris since he was a child, recalling how his parents had attended her conferences in Illinois. Chris's position as her personal bodyguard gave him proximity to her hectic schedule, which included numerous speaking engagements and international crusades. His work demanded not just professionalism but also adherence to the values associated with the Christian lifestyle, a pressure that Chris outwardly appeared to embrace. To the outside world, the Colemans embodied the perfect suburban family. Yet, as often said, appearances can be deceiving. Beneath the surface of their seemingly idyllic life, cracks were beginning to show. This illusion came crashing down on May 5, 2009, when Sherry and her two sons, Garrett and Gavin, were found unalived. All three had died from ligature choking, with no foreign DNA found on their bodies, only Chris's. The timeline of events soon raised troubling questions. A medical examiner estimated the family's time of death to be between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., hours before Chris left the house at 5:43 a.m. for the gym. This revelation contradicted Chris's claim that he had kissed his wife goodbye that morning while she and the boys were still asleep. The evidence painted a grim picture, suggesting the unthinkable. The life-taking had occurred while Chris was still at home. Additional details cast further suspicion on Chris. Investigators noted scratches on his arms, which he tried to conceal during questioning. Disturbingly, the handwriting of the spray-painted messages scrawled throughout the crime scene closely matched a sample taken from Chris. Furthermore, surveillance footage from a camera installed by Detective Sergeant Justin Barlow revealed no unusual activity around the mailbox or the house after Chris had left for the gym. This implied that no one else could have delivered the anonymous letters or entered the home that morning. Even Chris's timeline didn't add up. His first call to Barlow came from the Jefferson Barracks Bridge at 6:43 a.m., yet it took him 13 minutes to reach his home, a journey that typically lasted only 7 minutes. This discrepancy raised the question: what had he been doing during those extra minutes? Investigators suspected he may have been disposing of evidence or deliberately delaying his arrival to allow police to discover the bodies first. During his 6-hour interview with detectives, Chris maintained his innocence, though his responses often contradicted the mounting evidence. Asked if Sherry was alive when he left the house, he repeatedly claimed, "I think she was," but his uncertain tone failed to convince. Investigators pressed him on the timing of the murders, explaining how rigor mortis and other forensic evidence pinpointed the time of death. They also confronted him with discrepancies in his story, including the discovery of a can of red spray paint in his home, purchased months earlier, matching the graffiti at the crime scene. Throughout the questioning, Chris never asked how his family had died, a detail investigators found deeply unsettling. His lack of curiosity, coupled with the overwhelming physical evidence, solidified their belief that Chris had orchestrated the life-taking. Although he didn't confess during the interrogation, the case against him continued to build, leaving little doubt about his involvement in the crime. It turned out there wasn't some unknown enemy with a grudge against Joyce Meyer or the Colemans. Investigators discovered the anonymous emails originated from an account Chris had secretly created 6 months prior. One glaring clue was the repeated misspelling of opportunities as opportunities in both the anonymous letters and Chris's personal files. A search of his computer uncovered numerous instances of the same error, leaving no doubt Chris had orchestrated the entire scheme. The evidence pointed to premeditation, but the burning question remained: why? Why wipe out his family in such a way? Chris had confided to Joyce Meyer about marital struggles with Sherry. He claimed she was controlling and perpetually unhappy, which led to a breakdown in communication. Although divorce was discussed, the couple opted for counseling, reportedly due to Meyer's influence, as divorce clashed with their evangelical values. Yet, beneath the surface, Sherry seemed deeply uneasy. She once told a friend, "If something happens to me, it's Chris." Her words proved hauntingly prophetic. Chris, however, was leading a double life. Investigators learned of his relationship with Tara Lintz, a high school acquaintance of Sherry's. Chris and Tara connected during a family trip to Florida and grew close. When questioned, Chris described their bond as merely a friendship. But Tara's account painted a far different picture. She shared explicit content and messages exchanged with Chris, revealing an intimate relationship. These weren't isolated incidents. The police unearthed hundreds of photos, videos, and even a romantic getaway to Hawaii. Tara had envisioned a future with Chris, even marking their wedding in her calendar. Notes on Chris's phone detailed Tara's personal preferences and even proposed names for their hypothetical children. Their affair began in November 2008, shortly after meeting at a Joyce Meyer conference. By December, their relationship had turned physical. Intriguingly, this coincided with the timeline of the first anonymous email. Tara testified that Chris had promised to divorce Sherry by May 4, 2009. However, when May 4th arrived, Sherry was still alive, and Chris had called in sick to work, a rare occurrence. By May 5th, Sherry and their sons, Gavin and Garrett, were tragically unalived. Chris's motive soon became clear. Divorce was unacceptable in his professional circle, as it could jeopardize his role at Joyce Meyer Ministries. Employees confirmed that extramarital affairs and divorce often resulted in termination. Wiping out his family in Chris's twisted logic was his way out. Tara's ultimatum to choose her or his family added fuel to the fire. Despite his denials, physical evidence and circumstantial proof led to Chris's trial. Jurors wrestled with their verdict, initially deadlocked. However, upon re-examining evidence, they found a photo of Chris and Tara kissing weeks before they claimed their affair began. This inconsistency tipped the scales. After 15 hours of deliberation, Chris was convicted of 3 counts of life-taking and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, narrowly avoiding life-taking penalty due to Illinois' repeal of capital punishment. Chris maintains his innocence, alleging someone else used one of his laptops to frame him. His father, Pastor Ron Coleman, defended him, attributing his actions to unmet needs within his marriage. Sherry's family pursued legal action against Joyce Meyer Ministries, accusing them of failing to identify the threats as coming from Chris. The lawsuit was dismissed in 2013. Today, Chris Coleman resides in the same prison as Chris Watts, another man infamous for wiping out his family amid an extramarital affair. Their chilling parallels have sparked debates and comparisons. Chris Coleman's case is a haunting reminder that monsters don't always hide in the shadows. They can live right beside us. Did Chris's actions pave the way for others like Chris Watts? Could this tragedy have been prevented? Share your thoughts below, and let's unravel the truth together. If you found this story as chilling as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a tale like this. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and we'll see you soon.